Good evening and welcome to the latest instalment of Mickey's World Cup Roundup. Today we're going to have a quick review of the quarterfinals and a look ahead to the semi-finals. A couple bits of housekeeping before we get started. I know some of you have been criticising the lack of neck on display, so I do hope that this V-neck remedies that. I'd also like to thank my new subscribers. Thanks for joining the party. And thanks everyone for viewing the video, and I hope you enjoy this week's instalment. So, to the football. The first game of the quarterfinals was France against Germany. There was huge expectation about this, a lot of fervour. It's fair to say it didn't really live up to that, and there has been criticism that the Germans again looked a little uninspiring, and that the French didn't really turn up. I think criticism of the Germans is misfounded. I think they played this game perfectly. They got their early goal through Hummels and they controlled the rest of the game. The midfield that they have when Lam goes to right back is incredibly hard to break through. It's very solid and creates a great defensive platform in front of the back four. Through that solidity, they did manage to shut down France, one of the most expansive and exciting teams at the tournament so far. So I think rather than criticise the Germans, you have to look at their display as one of extreme efficiency, which of course is how we've known to come and, if not love, then respect the Germans. I also think Manuel Neuer was again superb. I think he's got to be in the running for the Player of the Tournament award. I know that perhaps a goalkeeper getting it isn't a huge ringing endorsement for the quality of a tournament, but to me he's been outstanding. France did underwhelm, I think it's fair to say. They've looked really good so far. Having said that, I think France are building for Euro 2016, which of course will be in France. I think they can look back at the tournament as a whole and be pretty satisfied. There seems to be a good team spirit. The players seem to respect the manager, and they weren't too far away from progressing here. Just a little bit more quality in the final third. But yeah, no, I think France can look back on a good tournament and a relatively successful few weeks in Brazil. Moving on now to the second quarterfinal, Brazil against Colombia. This was a highly entertaining, if ultimately infuriating game of football that was won by a frankly ridiculous strike from David Luiz. I think Brazil perhaps shaded the game overall, but again the officials seem to favour Brazil, somewhat of a recurring theme in this tournament. To me, Colombia's equaliser through Yepes at 1-1 was a perfectly legitimate goal. I think Brazil could and perhaps should have received more yellow cards earlier in the game. And I also think that Julio Cesar should have been sent off. There are other decisions that have gone for Brazil in this tournament, and I wouldn't for a second suggest that there's anything untoward going here other than a referee perhaps feeling the pressure of a partisan home crowd. I do feel sorry for Neymar. I think he's been outstanding and has proved a lot of people wrong who perhaps criticised him after his difficult first season at Barcelona. He has been inspirational for Brazil and has carried them up to now. He's also been kicked throughout the tournament, and inevitably he was going to get an injury that would put him out. I do feel deeply sorry for him. Looking ahead to Brazil against Germany, this is, and I'm probably going to get pillaged for this again because I'm going to write off Brazil for a third time. But on this occasion, without Neymar and without their other talismanic figure, Thiago Silva, I don't see that they can beat a highly efficient and effective German team. It may be tight, but I think Germany will close the game down and nick a 1-0 victory perhaps. Moving on now to Argentina against Belgium. This was another pretty frustratingly average game. An interesting tactical battle though, and I think overall Argentina probably deserved the victory. From a tactical perspective, I think what worked really well for Argentina was the deployment of two holding midfielders. They brought in Lucas Biglia, apologies if that's the mispronunciation, and they stuck him in defence midfield alongside Mascherano, and that provided superb protection to the defence from Belgium's attacking midfielders. Belgium didn't really ever penetrate the area in front of the back four, and those two defensive midfielders gave Messi an excellent platform from which to spring attacks in the centre of the park. Gonzalo Higuain took his goal outstandingly well, which was good for him. He's had a poor tournament up to this point, but we all know he's got the quality to deliver, and he certainly did so against Belgium. Eden Hazard, though, again, frustratingly ineffective. He must be, I think, well, for me anyway, he's been the biggest disappointment of this World Cup. He was outstanding at Chelsea last season. And when you look at the other players that have shone, your Neymars, your Messis, your Robins, he has failed to have a similar effect at Belgium, and he will look back on this as a poor tournament. Having said that, like France, this is a young Belgium team. So their first tournament of the so-called golden generation. I don't think they can be too frustrated, although, I mean, if they played well, they could have beaten an average Argentina team. But overall, I think this is a good learning experience for them, and I think they will be back stronger at the next tournament. Moving on to the last quarter-final. Excuse me. Netherlands against Costa Rica. Now, I wasn't able to watch this in its entirety, unfortunately. I was attending a pop-up in London called Dram and Smoke about my friends Nick Fulton and Paul Ross. Now, the huge exposure that you'll get off the back of this comment is largely wasted because it closed yesterday. But I'd just like to say well done, boys. Cracking spread, good atmosphere, lovely location. Well done. Back to the football. Although I was having dinner, there was a fellow half Dutchy at the table who was keeping me up to date with any efforts on goal, what was happening generally. There was also the daughters of a famous Scottish footballer at the table, so there was a sort of a football theme to proceedings. We were also able to watch penalties on someone's iPhone when they came on. And I was absolutely shocked at how good the Dutch penalties were. The Dutch, I don't know, I'm sure most of you are aware of this, but the Dutch have got a terrible pedigree, perhaps even surpassing that of England's in penalty shootouts. And to see the clinical nature of their finishes was heartening and surprising. Obviously, the big turning point, or the big talking point, was Louis van Gaal bringing on Tim Krul in the last few minutes, 4 penalties, and Tim Krul delivering a couple of great saves, getting in the face of the Costa Ricans, diving the right way every time. Again, Van Gaal seems to have a master stroke up his sleeve. Whether that can continue, I don't know, but so far he really has proved himself as a tactical genius at this World Cup. I feel sorry for Chris Gray. He would have won £6,000 if Costa Rica had got knocked out in the semis, but ultimately I was actually quite pleased that he didn't win. Moving on to look at whether the Dutch can beat Argentina. I'm not so sure. I think the Argentina team are slight favourites. I think both teams are over-reliant on one star player, Messi and Robin respectively. I think if Argentina retain the same team and formation, I think Di Maria might be out, so with the exception of him, they could win the midfield battle against Holland and nick the game in the absence of Nigel de Jong. It was good to see Schneider back to his creative and threatening best for the Dutch. And I think he will have to have a huge game if the Dutch are to beat the Argentina team. Now, yeah, I think that really sums up this week. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening. There will of course be a review going up probably on Thursday night, and I look forward to the final, whoever that may be. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.